Hello, I'm Marsha Bonhart, and welcome to the Dayton Commission Candidates Forum brought to you by the Dayton Weekly News. This is Dayton's longest running African American news publication. And we've invited all of the candidates to join us on Zoom to respond to a series of questions and issues that are on the minds of Dayton voters. Welcome. And welcome, we are speaking with Shenise Turner-Sloss, candidate for Dayton City Commission. Hello, how are you? Thanks for being with us.
I'm doing well, thank you. I have to say this is a honor and a pleasure. I am so delighted to be here to have the opportunity to speak with the legendary Miss Marsha Bonhart. So let me share
All
this
right.
with you real quick before we get started. So I went to Patterson and we had career areas in which we focused on at a vocational school. My area was radio and television. So I had this one classmate. Her name was, still we're friends to this day, but Maisha Hampton. And she will always say, I'm going to be the next Marsha Bonhart. I'm going to be the next Marsha Bonhart. And I'm looking at her like, wow, she has a lot of ambition. So,
Well, I hope she stuck with it. I hope she stuck with it.
yeah. She
Because you have
did,
to really,
but yeah, she didn't go in that area, but she's doing well and she is successful. So.
good, good. That's all that matters, I tell you. All right, we're gonna just a couple of questions about you, and one of which is, what did you learn in your former position as the city's community development specialist? And if you had such a passion to improve the city, why did you leave that position?
Wow, we jumping right into it. So that is a great question. Thank you very much. So I will say this. During my undergraduate studies at Fisk University, I was a poli-sci major. And so learning the textbooks and learning all of the different um, the ideologies and reading Race Matters and all of the different the textbooks and other books that we had the opportunity to study and read, it was a totally different, I should say, experience doing the job. I'm working for the city of Dayton. I had the opportunity. I started off as a community service advisor. So when I tell people that the priority boards were my training grounds, I mean that literally, because I had the opportunity to work with some of the most influential, committed servant leaders that we have in the city of Dayton today, and some are that are no longer with us. But when I look at my experience with Chairman David Greer and Ms. Pat Rickman, and I mean the list goes on and on. I have relationships with England, Mr. Fred England, and Miss Seminola, and so many people. But that position itself just enlightened me on not just the program, the priority boards, and the reason behind the priority boards. Because even to this day, a lot of people are like on the trail. They're asking, "Well, what are the priority boards? What was it? If it was so instrumental, if it was so renowned, then why do we no longer have it?" And people just don't have that education. And the fact that the priority board stemmed out of the Model Cities program, which was a direct response due to the 1960s riots. So what the Model Cities program is, it developed a pipeline for employment opportunities for our marginalized communities. A lot of African Americans who I've had the opportunity to work with during my tenure with the city of Dayton, they came out of the Model Cities program and they worked directly with the priority boards. So the priority boards, to me, again, it was my training grounds, and really how I really had the opportunity to connect with the community, connect with the people. Again, learning from political science and learning all the different ideologies or whatever have you, but actually doing the work really opened my eyes and enlightened me. And so then from there, serving as a community service advisor, I went on to a community development specialist, and then on my last position was senior community development specialist, as you mentioned. And so that there was you really got to understand the dollars, right? How are the dollars designated into our community? How do we disseminate those dollars and disperse those dollars out into the various projects, from the contracts, the flow of how everything works in the city of Dayton? A lot of people don't know the inner workings of the city of Dayton and how our government governs and how we're really doing our day-to-day business. So I like to think of my experience. I was honestly blessed to work under people like Ray Alexander, Miss Barbara Montgomery, Michael Thompson, so many people that really, they poured into me. They provided me with the opportunity to meet so many different people, not only in the city of Dayton in terms of the employment itself, but those relationships outside of the city with our county court partners and citywide development, which is that quasi-government area of the city of Dayton that we have, but also, again, just to build those relationships, get an understanding of how our government works, but understand the flow of the dollars, our consolidated plan that we have every 5 years, which tells us how we're spending those dollars, and the report that we have to provide to the Department of Housing and Housing and Urban Development. So again, my experience has afforded me the opportunity to really learn and know the inner workings of government. And a lot of the candidates, no shade whatsoever, but a lot of the other candidates, they don't have that experience. They don't have that hands-on experience. A lot of them may be in the room or in different offices, but to really know the inner workings of our government, to know how those dollars are spent, which really differentiates me from the other candidates. So thank you.
Well, yes, but you are in such a great position. You have such a passion to improve the city. So as that senior community development specialist, why leave that job?
Exactly, because a very valid question, because honestly, your hands are tied. There's only so much that you can do. Being in mid-management, at the time, you couldn't even have the option to voice your opinions. And a lot of times the recommendations that I have today and have had over the last 15 years, they fell on deaf ears. You have to work through the chains and how our government work. And when I was in that position, I knew from right then and there that in order for me to see change, we either needed to have someone who had the progressive mindset and who was able and willing to push that progressive policy forward to move the city of Dayton forward, or I myself needed to take the chance and going off on a limb and running to seek office as the next Dayton City Commissioner. Because again, like I said, when you are a city employee, due to the charter, you can't be heavily involved. You can't run for office. And so there are a number of stipulations that you have to abide by as a public servant with the city of Dayton.
Understood. All right. Okay. You talk about reducing the city's poverty numbers and changing segregation. How do you plan to do that?
Yes. So I think that this is we're at a very pivotal point. We're in interesting times, considering the racial tensions that we are dealing with. But again, the city of Dayton is no stranger to this. We are deemed one of the most segregated cities in the nation. The fact that in September of 2020, the city of Dayton was named one of the most impoverished cities in the nation. So that speaks to where we are in terms of that restrictive policy that has allowed us to be left behind and to be left out. And so what I plan to do is to reverse a lot of those restrictive policies that we have in place. I'll give you one example. The city of Dayton recently in 2000, I believe it was 2020, made the conscious decision to dismantle the lot links program. Now, mind you, the lot links program, there was some flaws, but it was also an opportunity for us to rebuild, to revamp, and to correct that program, to enhance it so that it's able to provide opportunities for minority communities, for those members in the minority community, to give them access to affordable housing. What the current administration decided to do was they decided to essentially just to in the program. And so it left this huge void in the city of Dayton where people they no longer have access to obtain that affordable housing, because I don't know if you know, but the Lot Links program provided an opportunity for the tax delinquent properties throughout the city of Dayton, Montgomery County, for individuals to provide an application. For vacant lots, they had to put a $500 deposit down. And then for lots with structures on them, there was a $1,200 to $1,500 deposit that had to be paid. And so the process took approximately up to like two years. But what the county would do is they would then in turn wipe out all of the back taxes. So then you had this property that was free and clear of any back taxes. But here's the problem with those structures. A lot of them were inhabitable. So they didn't have flooring. Didn't have, for that matter, a lot of the homes were stripped from its copper piping. There was a lot of things that these homes were missing. But what the city failed to do was we failed to couple that program with low interest loans and grants to assist those individuals who decided to participate in that program, so that they then too can have an opportunity to have decent affordable housing. We didn't correct the program. And so when I'm talking about eliminating restrictive policy and racist policy, those are the things that I'm speaking of in terms of, no, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, but this is what we can do in terms of the Lot Links program. We can make it right. So I'm proposing the Lot Links 2.0. We have a new county treasurer that's in office that was recently elected, Mr. John McManus. I have a relationship with him, and I'm looking forward to the day where him and I can sit down, have a conversation. We figured out the best means to reestablish this program, to put people back into to decent housing, because that's another issue. We're suffering from homelessness in the city of Dayton.
Could I get the name of that program again? I've not heard of it.
Yes, it's the Lot Links program. Lot Links.
Okay, gotcha.
And is no longer in operations, no longer available. However, what the city decided to do is they turned it over to Montgomery County Treasurer's Office. So it's now Montgomery County Depository Program.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that, Ms. Bonhart, has it opened up the doors for those with deep pockets and out-of-town investors to go in and to bid on these properties and to essentially create bidding wars. The average medium income in the city of Dayton is $28,000-$30,000. Many of us, myself included, we don't have $5,000 to $10,000 that we can pull out of our savings and go bid on a property, let alone getting into a bidding war with someone with deep pockets or a corporation who does have that opportunity, that ability to buy batches of property. So once again, what we're looking at is that our current administration has allowed and provided avenues for those not necessarily invested in the community to have their way in the city of Dayton, leaving the people in this community out and behind. And so my position and my plan is to reverse a lot of that policy, to give opportunities to the residents in the city of Dayton. That's one of my plans, again, is to put the residents first.
Thank you for that response.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the HRC, the declaring racism a public health crisis, but yet it's not being supportive of the Human Relations Council. And I mean, how do you weigh that when you don't have what you need to strengthen equity and inclusion, but yet you consider racism a public health crisis? What are your thoughts on that?
I think, well, first of all, I think you just provided the answer, but I concur. I'll say this. I think that declaring racism a public health crisis was, in fact, that was a first step, right? But I also think that we're way beyond these performative measures that we have seen over the last couple of years, not only with the city of Dayton, but across the country, with everything that we're dealing with in terms of police brutality, also with the racial tensions. That we're dealing with and that we're struggling with. And this is nothing new for us or to us. But the point is this, and again, you touched on it. If it's in fact a public health crisis, then why are we making the conscious decision to continuously defund the Human Relations Council? This institution itself was created to protect the civil rights of the residents in the city of Dayton. It was also deemed and created and is housed where the impact program is, the Minority Business Assistance Center is located. So I think that is within itself tells us as residents, as people in the city of Dayton, where their priorities lie. And it's not with the people. You're not protecting us. The HRC department is a valuable asset to the city of Dayton. And more than anything, we need to be protecting that right now. And especially, again, what we're dealing with. And so if it is in fact a public health crisis, then we need to back it up. And we need to make sure that we're using those dollars effectively. And how we do that under my leadership as the next Dayton City Commissioner, what my plan is to do under the guidance and the support of our community is to make sure we take some of those dollars, that $147 million that we have slated to come into the city of Dayton, and to fund the programs in our HRC department. We have to protect that gem. We have to be authentic if we really want to see real change in the city of Dayton. And I think that declaration is beyond lip service. We have to back it up, and backing it up calls for putting the dollars behind it, as well as the people. Because that's the other part. You cutting staff. So the other question is, how do we disseminate, how do we disperse $147 million if we don't have the capacity? If we're constantly cutting staff members, the city of Dayton has been cutting staff by 1/3. So we really got to get back to building up our capacity and putting people first.
Well, let's talk some more about another declaration, this one by the governor, and also the rest of that $147 million. We know one pocket where you'd like to see it. What else would you like to see? How else would you like to see this money dispersed?
Yes, thank you. So you're right. So in terms of our HRC department, I think we need to fund that area to protect the civil rights of the residents in the city of Dayton. I also believe that we definitely, and I would not by no means deviate from this. I've always said this from 2017, my first run for Dayton City Commission. I've also said it prior to, as a former city of Dayton employee. We need to invest in our people. And how do we do that? Investing in our neighborhoods. We need to make sure that our streets are paved. We are eliminating potholes. We still wait for our street lights to be developed in a number of our neighborhoods. We had that assessment placed on our tax bill back in 2014, 15. I'm still waiting for my new street light. But the point is this: we have to make sure that those dollars are used in the areas that are well needed. We also have to give opportunities. I have an initiative called Cut the Tape. What Cut the Tape is about is making sure that we are investing in our small businesses. I believe that that is one way that the city of Dayton is going to be able to come back to build its economy back up. And that is investing in our small businesses, giving them the opportunities. And again, it seems everything is correlated, right? It's all related, from our neighborhoods to our HRC department to our small businesses. And the small businesses, they need to be able to reach back to get the assistance from the HRC department, from the MBAC program, so they can get the technical assistance that's needed, so they are able to grow their business, build up their capacity, be able to bid for a number of city department contracts or city development contracts that may be out there. But again, they need the resources to reach back and get the guidance and the tools they need to be successful. So we have to invest in those areas. So as you already stated, my 3 areas I would say would be HRC, our neighborhoods, and investing in our people, and definitely investing in our small businesses, giving them the opportunity so that they too can be successful and thrive.
Well, thank you for your response. We've already, we have one question in reference to Governor DeWine and declaring and addressing minority health, racial disparities, and you've already addressed that. Um, that is a big issue. And it's one that I mean, how do you just put something like that, racial disparity meaning, in a bottle and say, fix it? How do you do that?
I think that it's going to take a collective effort. It's going to take all levels of our government to collectively work together. From our federal government, we have a new administration in who understands the issue. I believe anyway, that understands the issues that we're being faced with. They're being challenged in a number of their offices and departments. I believe they have the mindset, they have the brain trust to really start addressing those issues. It needs to funnel its way down. I'm proud and I'm happy to know that Governor DeWine has made that declaration, and he's willing to give the attention that's needed. But again, it takes more than a declaration. It takes more than lip service. And then it is my hope that as the next Dayton City Commission on the local level, we can push towards that, making sure that we are addressing those inequalities and in those issues of racial disparities. But it takes for people to really understand. I really believe this, Ms. Bonhart, that a lot of people, they really don't understand the role of the commissioner. Just bottom line, they don't understand the role of the commissioner. And it's not so much that they don't want to, but it's because people are faced with so many different challenges this year alone, and last year within itself, and for that matter, the city of Dayton, we've had some challenging times from 2019 on up, right? But the point is, people are dealing with the day to day. They're trying to figure out how they keep a roof over their head, how they keep food on their table. Let it alone, many of us are working 2 and 3 jobs. And then you have to turn around, don't throw in the global pandemic where people were literally having to teach their children online because the schools are shut down. So people are dealing with a lot. So they don't understand how our government is working. All they know is if I voted you in office, I expect you to take care of it. So there's an education piece that we need to address collectively so that we can figure out, to your point, how do we address these issues of disparity amongst our communities of color. Um, Go ahead.
And you know, one of your opponents said either today or yesterday, and I've always said this too, you can mandate, you can create laws, you can create ordinances and all these, you know, but you have to change mindsets, you have to change hearts.
Exactly.
And that's much more difficult than someone passing a law and getting people to vote on a mandate that's, you know, that determines whether or not, you know, racism is going to be disparity or not. So how do you change that? What do you do? Or can you just not?
I think you're absolutely right. That is why it's incumbent upon the voters to be inclined about who we're voting for. Understanding that individual's heart, understanding that that person is there to be a public servant, to serve in the best interest of everyone. I think oftentimes what we have seen, especially in the city of Dayton, is that people use the city of Dayton as their golden parachute. They use it as their own means to springboard their political aspirations. Are they truly working for us? And these are the questions that we need to ask all of the candidates, not only in this race, but all of the election cycles, all of the candidates from across the board, whether it's Republican or Democrat or independent, whomever. Do you have my best interest? Are you willing, and how are you going to address these issues? And then you have to look at people's past records. You have to look at their history. You have to look and really assess if this person is working for the will of the people. Are they doing the work? And again, it's something that you cannot mandate. It's something that you cannot govern. You really have to be intentional, and we have to study people and know how they're going to make effective change. But I think, and I do believe this, if you have the right leadership in place, things can happen in the sense that they can turn around for the good for everyone. I really truly believe that, especially the times that we're in right now. It's just, again, It's a totally different energy. This is not my first rodeo. And I'll tell you this, this is different. This is different. People are giving voice. They're marching in the street. They don't care if it's a global pandemic. They're literally masking up and they're marching in the street. That lets me know that people are conscious. And here's the other thing about it. It's not just us. It's not just us. It's our brothers and sisters from the suburban communities. It's our brothers and sisters from the Asian community, from the Latino community, Latinx community. It's from the white community. People are coming out and they're marching in the streets and they're saying, no, enough is enough. We're seeing it in the city of Dayton. We're seeing it across the country. So I believe if you have the right leadership in place and who is able to bridge that gap, we can make those effective changes. But they have to, people want something to believe in. They want something to see. You got to give them a reason for one to vote. You got to give them a reason to vote. You got to give them a reason to come out, especially in a pandemic. You want me to do what? You want me to go vote? So again, we're in a whole nother different time, whole nother different energy. I think the time is right. We're having those authentic conversations. You know, I work at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and we're having conversations about race relations. We're having conversations about diversity, inclusion. And that we're not just only having conversations, but we're making it mandatory. And in a sense, we're not pushing it or shoving it down individuals' throat, but we're taking the time to understand people's perspective. We're providing reading material. Sometimes it's a book. Sometimes we can't tell our white brothers and sisters how we feel. Sometimes it takes for their own peer to let them know that this is what privilege looked like. You know, you may have not known this, but this is what white fragility looks like. And this is how it sounds. And this is what it is.
And maybe even just not knowing, but asking. I think that's progressive.
Absolutely.
They may not know, but wanting to know and asking questions. I think that's progressive.
Yeah. I had a coworker to tell me, he said, you know, because we had a conversation amongst amongst my team, and one of my coworkers, he pulled me aside. He said, you know, I didn't know. I really didn't know. And so now I would take the time out and I will read The Color of Law. You know, I will read White Fragility. So again, people just really don't know. So I think again, people they there's an appetite and a thirst for learning, and there's a thirst and there's a that empathy piece. And to your point, like people, you really have to be at a place and a point. And that's one of the ugly things, what the beauties, I should say, out of all of the ugliness with COVID is that within our culture itself, like we know how to make lemonade out of lemons. But I think that this has really provided people an opportunity to kind of sit back, pause, and just regroup and just think things differently, think of things in a different perspective, even what we're dealing with in terms of our community relations with our interactions with the police, and reimagining how we deal with our police officers and just doing things differently. So you know, we're living in some difficult times, but I also think that it is an interesting time for us to right and to correct a lot of our wrongs.
Thank you for those answers. Much appreciation. One last question.
Okay.
Dayton's largest union and non-union employees are not going to get a pay increase this year. The city is trying to, of course, grapple with the revenue losses related to COVID-19. But yet the current city commission is asking voters to change the charter to ask for a pay increase for the mayor and the commissioners. Your thoughts?
Once again, I see why you're the professional because you hit on it. Absolutely. So the bottom line is this: it is disingenuous for our elected officials, for our city administration to even pose that on the voters at this time. Again, we're in a global pandemic. So many people have lost their lives, their jobs, their family members, and the audacity and the arrogance for you to come to the voters and to ask them for a pay increase. First and foremost, let me say this. I look around and I don't see any evidence of any one of them being deserving of a pay raise. And that goes for me myself as the next Dayton City Commissioner. I dare not ask for a pay raise, considering that the city of Dayton has yet to recover from the economic downturn in 2008, 2010. We're still in recovery. And then you get hit with tornadoes, and then you get hit with a mass shooting, and then you get hit with revenue loss and a global pandemic, and the audacity and the arrogance that you want a pay increase. If you have cut your workforce down to 1/3. 1/3 of our workforce have been cut in the city of Dayton. And again, one of the candidates had say and pull a thread on that, say, hey, listen, that's not even including the union workers. That's not even including the bargaining unit. And so now so the point is this: we need people in office who is in tune with the pulse of the community. That shows me that you have no clue. You're not even connected to the community to say that, I don't think that this is a right time. And again, out of all of our commissioners, including the mayor, none of them had the gall or the nerve to say, this is not the time. I am not voting to have this on the ballot, knowing what we're dealing with. I would not do that to the constituents in this community. They haven't trusted me. And so I have to protect them. So what I can do to protect them, my vote is no. But yet and still, these are decisions that are being made by our current elected officials. And that's why it's time for new leadership. And quite honestly, anyone who is aligned with our current administration, we don't need to vote them in. And I'm just going to be very candidly honest and transparent with you. If you are aligned with our current administration, you do not deserve our vote, period. Because all we're going to see is one of the same. Empty promises, broken promises. You're going to say you're going to do this, you're going to say that, you're going to do that. And then we're going to get in there and 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we're going to be in the same predicament. So we need progressive candidates who are willing to push the envelope, who are willing to get in the streets and really start talking to people in the neighborhoods, bringing it back to the people. And that's why I am a strong advocate for bringing the priority boards back. Or somewhat of a resemblance of the priority boards. The people in this community, they need to know that they have an arm in City Hall. They need to know that whenever there are issues or concerns, that they can reach back to City Hall and they know that the person that they have in that office is going to work for them.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your comments, all of your responses, and good luck to you as you continue your campaign. Thanks so much, Shenise Turner-Sloss.